There's been, I think 2013 was a big year for Smash's competitive scene getting out into more of the FGC in general, right? I
Right.
think that's when Smash was at Evo,
Yes.
and apparently that year, was it 2013? I think I was there that year, and there were people like Mango and Hungrybox,
The big names.
alongside Daigo and like Tokido and all those people. So it was this weird clash of people from different sub communities, but they're all in the same place playing games.
Yep.
But there's definitely a difference between the communities because there's a different history. And I think one of the biggest things is it's not just that it's a Nintendo game with Kirby and Pikachu. It's also that Smash didn't come out in the arcades. It doesn't have an
Yeah.
arcade background.
No coin op
Yeah, no
machines.
coin-op machines. So that's one of the big differences. And of course, like Street Fighter and Tekken, those games are older and they've been around for longer. So there's kind of a different vibe with Smash. And one of the guys that really kind of showed me how competitive and how deep Smash was this guy named Josh Glandorf. I met him at Arcade Stream.
Okay.
Actually, it was a long time ago. This was before Korea Gaming started,
Right.
and
Still
this
in
was
Korea, right?
yeah, it was in Korea, and I
okay.
was playing Street Fighter 4 during that time.
Mhm.
And they had these CRTs at Arcade Stream. They had these like Vuelix cabs that were playing Street Fighter 4, but then like another part of the room had these CRTs playing. I believe it was Melee at the
Okay.
time, and these guys were so into the game. They came out more often and regularly than any of the Street Fighter guys did. And this guy Josh Glandorf and Eric, of course, Lemma. He was rocking Falco. He's a Falco main, and
Okay.
they would just take these CRTs and put them in cars and drive around
Wow.
to the closest place that had the next Melee tournament.
Okay.
Right. So these people were very dedicated, and I think one of the first times I thought Smash was sick was when I saw I think it was PPMD's Marth.
Right.
So watching like high level Marth play, I don't know why, but it's just there's something so clear about the whiff punishing and
Yep.
gauging the ranges of attacks and the tipper attacks and everything. There's the tipper mechanic is basically if you hit someone at the tip of the sword, it does like a damage boost.
Yeah.
And just seeing people master that and on top of the movement and everything, I always thought that was so sick. And of course, like spiking people into the pit and just any
Yeah.
kind of stuff that felt really, really fighting gamey, right?
Sure.
And so I guess this kind of brings us to the topic of, is Smash a fighting game? We talked about all these differences between the communities. I guess, I don't know, Kevin, like what is your kind of run in with Smash? And I guess what's your background with Smash? I know we're both not like Smash people.
I'll
per
admit,
se.
I know of Smash and I played when I was a kid. But sadly, I didn't really get into the competitive scene as a player much, more of a TO in my locals back then in Australia. And like even then, until now, I still hear people saying in like offline venues as well as like big major tournaments, even online social media, like there's this group of people who want to heavily defend the fact that Smash is a fighting game. Them knowing that there are other forces out there claiming that it's not. And yeah, I didn't really take that seriously, but then it seems to be like a ongoing thing, although not many people, I would say, they are supporting this idea. But to me personally, and for this video that we've made, the fact that it is under the fighting game tree, for me, yes, it is a fighting game. If I were to categorize it, like if it were to be recorded in the history books, right? I would probably say it is definitely a fighting game, purely because of the gameplay aspect. Like I don't mind the visuals or the mechanics. Sure, it can be unique on its own. But just for the pure 1v1 mechanic, that alone, I think it's once again, fighting gaminess. Yeah,
Yeah.
to me, enough to say it's a fighting game.
Yeah, so I guess one of the issues with Smash being seen as a fighting game or whatever is obviously because it's a different kind of game. It's in the hybrid category.
Heavily looks different too. That did kind of put a bit of weight into that discussion too.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people do have issue because sometimes communities don't want to be conflated with one another. They don't want to be considered part of that community.
Right.
And if you have something like one big banner for these kind of games, fighting games, then it's kind of it's kind of confusing, and it kind of doesn't explain the identity quite precisely in a way that some people who find it very dear to them and important to them would be satisfied with.
Yes.
Well, so there is that aspect of it, which is like if somebody came up and was talking about, oh yeah, I'm really good at fighting, and I have a really strong fighting game background. I'm it's actually one of my favorite genres, and I love fighting games, and I do pretty good at tournaments. I'd say I'm a pretty good fighting game player. And they've never played Street Fighter. They've never played Tekken. They've never played anything from the archetypal tree, and they've only played stuff from the hybrid.
Sure.
Then that might seem like
Then
I'm good at fighting games sounds a bit like, but then if somebody's never played Smash or Arena in tournament and say I'm good at fighting games, no one would have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is where there's kind of like an identity issue. And I think it's, you see this in rock music and metal music as well. And this is why I use the analogy in the Every Fighting Game Type Explained video, because I use Beastie Boys as an example, because they actually were the ones that really popularized the idea of having rap in rock music.
Sure.
But there was another analogy that would have been way more controversial that I almost put in, but I realized, one, it wasn't as accurate, and two, it would be way more vitriolic. The idea of nu metal, right?
I see.
So if you talk to some really like pure metal guys about nu metal, there's a very it can get pretty polarizing, right? So a lot of metalheads will just look at nu metal and be like, "Oh no, that's not metal music. That's just some pop. That's something else."
So many other subgenres of our culture have a similar thing going on in their own kind of communities.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And I think this is why it was a good example. I didn't say that it was metal and nu metal. I just said it was like like rock and Beastie Boys, which is whatever you want to call that kind of music, right? Rap rock or whatever. But so yeah, like I don't think if I were to say Smash is the Limp Bizkit of fighting games, I think that would have been there would have been more confusion there, right? So it was, I think Beastie Boys was kind of a good way to Beastie Boys are respected and
yeah, sure.
They're
and
they
made a mark.
They made a mark, and they definitely created a hybrid genre. And I even used the example of I put a clip of Linkin Park in there.
Oh, I see.
And Linkin Park has an album called Hybrid Theory. It's one of their best
one
albums.
Of our chapters too.
Yeah, and that was the name of the chapter, which was kind of there's some people in the comments of the video that got that, which
I know there's a lot of music heads in the subscriber list
for
as well.
sure. For sure. I know it's not like everybody's into rock music, obviously not, but it's kind of like
Linkin Park come to Korea?
Yeah, I saw them.
Oh, I missed out.
Yeah.
How was it?
It was okay, I'm gonna be completely honest.